We have many 18 and 20-year-olds in ICUs, on ventilators, even babies in pediatric ICUs in Louisiana. So while the attack rate for younger people is lower, it is not zero.
Over the last week, the CDC says there has been a 32% rise in young adults being hospitalized with COVID. Not only is Delta targeting young Americans, but Americans between 18 to 24 have the lowest rates of vaccination. And a recent survey shows they're the most unsure about getting the shot. But they aren't alone. Americans of all ages are skeptical, and chances are you know a friend or a loved one who is hell-bent against getting a shot. So how do you deal with them? Is there any chance of convincing them to do it? A new op-ed in the New York Times suggests shame, not the way, especially with young adults. Joining me now, the authors of that essay, public health researcher Abdullah Shihipar and journalist Rainsford Stauffer. Also with me, MSNBC political analyst Juanita Tolliver. Great to see you all. I really want to have this conversation because I think we all know someone in our extended circles for whom this is true. Rainsford, I think shame is like a lot of people's go-to in general for a lot of things. You say when it comes to the vaccines, does not work, especially with young people. Tell me why.
I think the thing about shame is it's a very individual way to fix a structural problem. Setting individual boundaries with unvaccinated friends or family is a warranted personal decision, but we really need to be having a structural conversation. We need to be reducing barriers to access for people who are interested in getting the vaccine and want to, but are operating within structures that make that impossible. And in terms of young adults, for example, we know that a significant number in the United States are working in low-wage jobs where they're less likely to have paid sick leave to go get a vaccine or when they experience side effects. But a recent poll showed that vaccination rates were higher among workers whose employers provided that paid time off. So we need policies and infrastructure that strengthen our social safety net to keep everyone, including young adults, safe. And I think that's really important to this conversation.
Abdullah, this is where Rainsford and I always agree, which is sort of this hyper-focus on the individual obscures this question of systems and structures. And at the same time, I think the reason it feels so urgent for so many people is because we want to believe that we can reach out to people we love who are still resistant. Abdullah, we have seen all types of emotional messages from unvaccinated COVID patients. Here is one from Virginia resident Travis Campbell. Take a listen.
I messed up big time, guys. I didn't get the vaccine. That's okay. I made a mistake. I admit it. And I'm taking my responsibilities now. So please, for the love of God, if you really want to have a chance, don't fall numb to all the TV, Roderick, and social media. Just protect yourself.
Okay, so Abdullah, what I think is so powerful about that is the reference to all of the TV and social media, right? That in addition to the structural problems, which is do you have the time off, do you have the access, there's also this question of the disinformation and the misinformation that has been so rampant throughout this pandemic. How do you undo that piece? How do you address that piece one-on-one?
It's difficult. I mean, it's really hard to try to have that conversation, especially if you're going against podcasts or things that they say on Facebook. It'll take a long time and they'll be patient. However, we also have data from the CDC about what young people are concerned about, and specifically young people who are unsure of taking the vaccine. And that data says they are really, really concerned about side effects and that they haven't seen enough information about side effects. And that's how we can, if you want to have a conversation, listen to their concerns and, address the specific concerns. Chances are not everyone is a conspiracy theorist. Some people might just have, might have been receiving wrong information about the vaccine. And so that's what the data tells us. It tells us that the young people are really, really concerned about side effects.
Right. And Juanita, the other thing we keep hearing from public health professionals is that they know that a person's direct care provider is often the most trusted messenger. Part of the challenge with young people is that a lot of young people don't have a direct service provider. They may not have a GP who they go to regularly. They may not have health insurance. So Juanita, you are a messenger. This is the work that you do sort of at a macro level. Do you think that the message is resonating and understanding, or do you think it is missing the mark?
Oh, Alicia, it's clearly missing the mark based on these trends and the vaccination rates we're seeing among young people. And what they need to emphasize here is the efficacy, but also getting to an understanding of responding to why young people are not getting vaccinated. As Abdullah just mentioned, there's typically some explicit reason, whether it's no access to paid leave, whether it's concerns or questions still about the vaccines. Those can be answered. But I feel like with every piece of data we get, we need to translate that into easily accessible and actionable information for the general public. And that's how we can spruce up the messaging from all the public health officials, from the White House, from the CDC, to really streamline this so it's, again, something that's fully accessible and relatable, but actionable, so that young people can get the information that they need and thus feel safe getting vaccinated.
Abdul, it does seem that one of the many pieces of pushback that people hear is about the emergency authorization used from the FDA. So I wonder both what you think the FDA's role is in all of this, and if you have a loved one for whom that is sort of the final frontier of this, what it is you say to them.
Well, I would say to them that there are processes in place to get the vaccine, that lots of people have gotten the vaccine and it has been a safe process. Some people have suggested that the FDA should should fully approve the vaccines. But of course, that's a process that the FDA says that they are doing their due diligence to make sure that they go through all of the proper channels. And so what I would point to is the fact is that the FDA would not approve a vaccine even for emergency use if it was not safe. There are lots of presentations. There was a lot of the vaccine initially was developed. There were trials, right? It was ready months ago, but you had to go through the process of trialing it, which had 100,000 people in the trial. They had to present that data to the FDA, and then the FDA had to approve it. That process took months, and I generally, we think that that was really quick, but still it's because they got on the ball with vaccine development really early, as soon as the pandemic began.
Rainsford, beyond the structural piece of this, what is it you think that we're getting wrong about young people and the way we talk to young Americans about these vaccines?
Honestly, I think what we're getting wrong here is the same thing we tend to get wrong about young adults in general. We kind of approach young adulthood as though everybody is within this big monolith. Everybody is living this kind of wild and responsibility-free time of young adulthood, and it ties into this invincibility narrative that every young person thinks they're invincible. But in reality, at the start of the pandemic, there was a lot of messaging about how young adults could afford to wait because they were lower risk. And that neglected immunocompromised young people living in multi-generational households, young people working on the front lines. So I think the more we can address the fact that young people have complex lived experiences and different needs, the more open conversations we can have about structural barriers and solutions.
Juanita, I have about 30 seconds. Tell me what I missed.
This is not a one and done, Alicia. This is going to be a constant effort that I think needs full investment. And again, more messengers, more trusted people getting out there, understanding why young people are not getting vaccinated and responding to those needs. So if the White House is talking about we're going to give businesses resources so they can offer paid leave, which we know young people likely don't have, if we're offering other information, get that out there to young people and keep a steady drumbeat going.
Abdullah, Rainsford, Juanita, thank you all. More American Voices after this.